let's talk about a war that went on for almost 50 years, pulled in the entire planet, and brought us all to the very edge of total destruction, all without a single official battle between the two main rivals. This, right here, is the story of the Cold War. So it all starts right here. After World War II finally wraps up, you've basically got two giants left standing on the world stage, the United States and the Soviet Union. And get this, for all their power, for all their global rivalry, there were zero, not one, direct, large-scale battles fought between them. And yet, without ever really firing a shot at each other, they managed to push the entire world to the brink. So how does a war with no fighting become one of the most dangerous conflicts in all of human history? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. The thing is, the Cold War wasn't fought on a typical battlefield. Nope, this was a war of ideas, a fight for influence over the entire globe. And, more than anything else, it was a war waged with fear itself. Okay, so let's get a handle on what we're talking about here. The key phrase is without direct large-scale fighting. So instead of their armies going head-to-head, these superpowers got creative. They funded smaller countries to fight for them in so-called proxy wars. They launched massive propaganda campaigns to win hearts and minds. And they built up these absolutely terrifying arsenals that they hoped they'd never, ever have to use. And to really get why this all happened, you have to rewind to the end of World War II. The old world was basically in ruins, and these two new powers rose from the ashes with completely opposite ideas about what the future should look like. And this slide right here, it just nails the fundamental clash. I mean, look at their ideologies. The US was all about democracy and capitalism. The USSR, on the other hand, was pushing communism, totally opposing systems. But now look at their goal. It's the exact same, global influence. When you have two giants wanting to remake the world in their own image, well, a collision is coming. So here's the crucial thing to remember. Even though their beliefs were polar opposites, their methods were like a mirror image. They both scrambled for power all over the globe, and they both chased after the ultimate weapon to get it, the nuclear bomb. This insane competition literally split the planet in two, forcing pretty much every country to pick a side. And that leads us right into the engine that powered the entire Cold War. The arms race. This was just a relentless, decades-long showdown to see who could build bigger, badder, and more horrifying weapons. And believe me, it wasn't just about the bombs. This was a full-on tech marathon. They built nukes that could wipe out entire cities, long-range rockets that could deliver them anywhere on the planet, and they even took the competition to space, not just for science, but for bragging rights and a military edge. Every single breakthrough on one side just set off a panic on the other. This quote, it really gets to the core of it. The bombs didn't actually have to be dropped to work. Just the knowledge that they existed, the constant nagging threat that they could be launched at any second, that was enough. Fear itself was the weapon, and it shaped everything. Politics, culture, our daily lives, for generations. This constant state of fear, it wasn't just background noise. There were several moments where the tension just boiled over, moments where the entire world was staring straight into the abyss of nuclear war. This timeline just shows you how long the pressure was on. You've got the Berlin blockade, a direct standoff in a single city that almost started a shooting war. Then you have the proxy wars, like in Korea and Vietnam, where the superpowers armed opposite sides in these just brutal, devastating conflicts. Any one of these could have been the spark that ignited a direct war between the US and the USSR. But no moment, absolutely no moment, was as terrifying as the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. For 13 straight days, the entire world just held its breath, watching as the US and the USSR stood eyeball to eyeball, both with their fingers hovering over the launch button. It is, without a doubt, the closest humanity has ever come to destroying itself. So, if the war didn't end in a nuclear firestorm, how did it end? Well, pretty surprisingly, it wasn't with some epic final battle. It ended when one of the superpowers just fell apart from the inside. This chart here really tells the story. Take a look at that bar for military spending in the 1980s. It's just massive. The Soviet Union was pouring everything it had into trying to keep up in the arms race. Now, look at the bar for economic growth. See how tiny it is? The cost of all that competition was literally bankrupting the country. And that economic failure kicked off this incredible domino effect. First, the economy just grinds to a halt. Then, with no money left, their ability to even compete in the arms race just evaporated. That weakness then fueled huge public protests demanding freedom and change. And then finally, in 1991, the whole system just collapsed. The Soviet Union was gone. And that brings us right back to that wild central paradox. A global war spanning half a century, involving the two most powerful empires in history, and it ended without them ever firing a single shot directly at each other. Just incredible. This quote just perfectly captures the chilling lesson from that whole era. It proved that you can bring a superpower to its knees and hold the entire world hostage, not just with bullets and bombs, but with the threat of them. Sometimes, fear is all the weapon you need. And that leaves us with a really important question for today. When we look around at the global tensions and the conflicts happening right now, have we actually learned the lessons from this long, strange war of fear? That's definitely something to think about.